Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of Lies, Dirty Lies, and Statistics. I'm going to start today's podcast early. I just thought I'd start the stream early. Sammy will be along shortly to do some of the stats. Unfortunately, the stats are not up this time. Usually, the stats are already up. They're not, and Sam's able to scrape them off the net. But all the stats that we needed are not up this time for whatever the reason. Nothing to do with us. But I thought I'd just jump on the stream and just start talking with you guys and answering questions and asking questions as well in this particular setting. Nathan Gorman says, when Khamzat was on Usman's back, he seemed to be very high and nearly falling off. Are you surprised he made a simple mistake like that considering his grappling experience? I don't think it was necessarily a mistake. If you grapple, you're going to see you can't choke people if your head's below their head, or even in line you can, but if your head's got to be higher. And a lot of the times people jump on people's back and fall off the back of people. Pretty much if Usman hadn't have forward rolled and dived the way he did, he wouldn't have got out of it and it wouldn't have been a problem. The way that Usman rolled as well, like that's like next level fucking I'm going for this, you know what I mean? Like it could have been very brutal ending for either one of those guys. Could have even been bad for Usman. He could have broken his own neck, you know. That was I don't advise people to try that escape. Madara says, what did you make of Usman's submission defense? It seems like he was never in trouble of being submitted, which surprised me considering the supposed difference in BJJ between the two. Well, it's a big thing, man. Two things I'll speak to, and I don't want to jump right to the end, but there was a big difference in their grappling. Like there's not even close. For someone to take you down and take your back, there's already a big difference. This is already a big achievement. You know, this is a very, very dominant position in the fight game. And whilst Usman didn't get choked, he was doing nothing but defending the choke. And the last attempt, I'm talking about the first round. If he hadn't have done that crazy ass forward roll, he probably would have got choked there. You know what I mean? So I'm not surprised by Khamzat's grappling ability per se, because he is what he is. Usman is a collegiate wrestling champion, made the university games side. He's no joke, you know. So I'm not surprised that Khamzat couldn't put him away like that. I'm actually more surprised with how well Khamzat did in that first round. That was really, really impressive. In the third round, another thing, I don't know if people get this or not. Khamzat didn't have, it's not really half guard what was occurring there, because half guard to me is when you are using your guard, your legs, to defend yourself. And in this situation, Usman was not. He was more or less being pinned. And I think, because I watched the fight back, and I think even DC spoke to that, you know, I think he spoke to that to a certain degree. When your knee shields aren't up and your shins aren't up and you're not really using your hands, you're not using half guard. That's not half guard. That's closer to being a Turk ride, which is a pin in wrestling. And he was being pinned onto his back. And he was flat on his back. He wasn't on his side. He wasn't coming up. He wasn't doing anything from that bottom half. And so, to me, that's another clear grappling advantage and positional advantage to Khamzat. I think that Usman had some really good moments in there. I think the maximum you could probably give is a draw, and I'm okay with that if you were to give a draw. But I felt that Khamzat won. Watching it live, I felt that Khamzat won. I didn't think it was like I didn't think it was even close like that. Look, close enough fight, but I didn't think. I would give the first round to Khamzat. It doesn't even have to be a 10-8, can be a 10-9, because there wasn't really any damage, but there was complete domination, positional domination. So either or, I don't mind. I'm not judging the fight, by the way. I'm not a judge. I'm not trying to do the job of a judge. I'm not telling you that what I'm saying is right. I'm just saying to you how I see it from my perspective. So I give the first to Khamzat. The second, to me, could really go either way. I don't think there was. I think Usman landed some damaging shots. I don't think it was enough to really differentiate between the two, and Khamzat landed a takedown. Did nothing with it. This was a round. If you want to give that to Usman, that's fine. If you give it to Khamzat, I'm fine with that. The third round, I think as well, Usman landed the heavier shots. But in terms of damage, I don't see him doing enough damage to negate the shots that landed from Khamzat, and then the takedown, the control time, and the positional play that occurred. You know what I mean, in that grappling exchange. Because what people don't understand, like same as when you take the back, when you pin someone like that and you basically render them useless, they're not far off having a shot landed on them, having, the position advanced to maybe a mount, which honestly, I'd prefer that Turk ride position to mount. So that's why I think it's a very dominant position. Did he do much damage with it? Not really. So again, if you gave Usman the second and the third, and I'm saying this, if you gave Usman the second and the third 10-9, if you're going to be that generous with it, you'd have to give Khamzat the first 10-8, which makes it a draw. If you gave, I kind of gave a 10-9 to Khamzat the first round, and the third round I gave to Khamzat as well, as a 10-9, and the second one could have gone either way. But that to me speaks to the subjectivity of judging, and that's always going to be there. I don't think it was a robbery. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it was a robbery. I think you have to make a really, really, really hard case for Usman to have won that fight. I think it's difficult. John Wayne says, Khamzat didn't look comfortable on the feet. He looked vulnerable to jabs. I think he struggled against strikers like Strickland or Adesanya. Thoughts? I think Strickland and Adesanya are very different fighters. I don't know how Israel would deal with that pressure coming forward, because Khamzat's going to come forward and shoot on Israel, and he's going to get Israel down. And I don't know that Israel survives that first round. I just don't see him surviving that first round like that. I just don't see it. And that's nothing against Israel, right? Because if Israel survives that first round, Israel will pick him apart. He will. But Khamzat's got enough of a chin on him. He's got a good chin. He pressures coming forward. He's long himself, not as long as Israel, but he's long. And I haven't done a breakdown yet for it, but I do think after seeing that and seeing him in these fights in the first rounds, I don't see many middleweights being able to survive that first round. If he comes at you with anything like that, the only ones that I do see surviving that and it being a real problem down the track are guys like Strickland, who like to pressure coming forward and have a very fluid, efficient style, and they're true 5-round fighters. And I think that outside of Khamzat being a big, powerful guy, which counts for a lot, and he's got some really big shots that he throws, straight right hand, left hook, right uppercut, a couple of leg kicks that he does. Outside of that, he's not like a fluid technical striker, but he's got a good chin and he hits hard and he's long and he's big and he can wrestle. So this is going to be a problem for a lot of people. Strickland, if Strickland gets out of those first 7 minutes with Khamzat, it'll get ugly. It'll be an ugly fight, and Strickland could win it. He could definitely win it. Adesanya, I think as well, but I think Adesanya, it's going to be harder. I don't think Adesanya has the depth in his grappling. I've seen him get held down by guys that I don't think are anywhere near as good grapplers as Khamzat. There's no disrespect to them. I've seen him get taken down by guys, and I think that'll be a problem. And Khamzat's not stupid. He knows he can't sit there and have a kickboxing match with Israel. So, yes, if he can't get him down, or if he slows down and gasses or anything like that, then it's going to be a problem. Also, if he hurt his hand I think he said he hurt his left hand. If he hurt his hand, it doesn't even have to be broken. Like if anyone's ever jarred their thumb, have you ever jarred your thumb or anything like that? Like, and you can't use it, it doesn't have to be broken, man. If it splits through the adrenaline and you can feel it like that and you can't move and you can't use that hand, it's actually better if you're a striker because you have your other weapons and you understand how to use that better. But if you're a dyed-in-the-wool grappler and you can't link your hands, you can't get the grips, you can't get the purchase on a person, it changes how you're going to fight and it changes how you deal with stuff. I was actually impressed by Khamzat, to be honest with you, because I do believe that Usman has lost a step. You know, I do believe he's lost a step a little bit, but not just in this fight. This was even before it. But he's still Kamaru Usman, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's still right up there in the upper echelons of that welterweight division. And I'd like to see him stay a middleweight. It'll be interesting to see what he does there. He's no fucking joke, dude. Gilbert Burns is no joke, and he beat both these guys. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. He beat them. And even if you disagree with the decision, it doesn't matter. He beat them. So I think in your 13th fight or something to beat Kamaru Usman and have already a win over Gilbert Burns, even a win over Kevin Holland, the way he did it, these are impressive wins, man. I'd like to see now against a true middleweight, I would, and on a full camp. This would be interesting. I don't think that he should get the title shot. This is just me, not that whether he deserves it or not. I just think Dricus should get the title shot. That makes all the sense in the world to me. I don't care if they give him the title shot of the winner of those two, but I'd like to see Dricus get his flowers, you know? Pepcard says, did Khamzat's domination in wrestling versus Usman's tell you anything between the American style versus the Dagestani Chechen style? Like I've said a million times in the thing, like the Russians in general for the freestyle wrestling, and they come out of that region for the majority. They come out of the Caucasus regions, not just Russia, but Georgia, Armenia, all that Caucasus region have amazing wrestlers, judoka, combat athletes. Having said that, you can't take a sample size of these two guys. One guy that's past his prime is 36, 37 years old. The other guy's not yet 30. You know what I mean? Real hungry, real thing in MMA, and then compare that to and say this speaks to Chechen wrestling, etc. Because there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of good Dagestanis, but there's a lot of them that come through that aren't that good, man. This is facts. It's not every single Dagestani or every single Russian just dominates everyone. They're good. I would say that's the hotbed for combat sports at the moment. I'm a big fan of it. I've always been a big fan of the Dagestani Chechen wrestlers. But I can't say to you, oh, this proved whatever. It doesn't. Like, Bo Nickel will outgrapple a lot of guys. You know what I mean? He's a world champion. He's a US guy. I still think the Russians overall have the better wrestling, in the better freestylers for sure. That is not a good hill to die on to compare the two. You know, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that it isn't better or that it isn't as good or whatever. I'm just saying that's not a real accurate comparison to do anything with the wrestling. But it tells me that Khamzat gets his hands on you and he's taking you down. That's what it tells me, you know. Because there are others like Dagestanis that aren't, they're not Khamzat, you know. So it does that's what that tells me. If he gets his hands on you, he will take you down. Death Note says, should Khamzat switch camps and move to Islam Khabib camp? They seem to be better and smarter considering Khamzat has untapped potential that the Dagestanis could unleash. Thoughts? I'm not, like, I don't really see why he would have to switch camps. I see no, like, I don't even know the dynamics of his actual camp. You know what I mean? I don't know. And the thing is, let's play devil's advocate. Even if Khabib's camp was better or is better, you still have to click with them. You still have to have a relationship with them, with that person. You know, it's very, the relationship between coach and athlete is very, very, very important, and with your teammates and whatnot. So he might not have that. He might be really happy with the guys he has. And remember this, going back to the Chechen Dagestani thing, just because you haven't heard of people, it doesn't mean that he hasn't got amazing guys to grapple with. If he's bringing guys in from Chechnya himself, guys that he grew up wrestling with and that, which I'm pretty sure he is, those guys, just because you don't know, they'd be phenomenal grapplers. They'd be phenomenal grapplers. You don't need to bring in big names of guys. It has to be a name that everyone knows. You would not even know these guys. It could be a guy that's like a provincial champion from Dagestan, just number 3 in Dagestan, and doesn't make the national team. He'd still fucking be the best wrestler you've ever seen. That is definitely a hotbed for combat sports. Mario Gomez says, why do you think Khamzat was hesitant to strike in round 2 or 3? Do you think he felt Usman's power and didn't want to engage? I think it's probably a combination of a lot of things. And if he felt that his hand was injured, might not be, like I said earlier, might not be broken, could be just jarred or badly sprained. And, if you feel it like that and you're not confident in your power, and you're not a dyed-in-the-wool striker, you're not like a guy that grew up striking. And so you're like, well, my hand's broken. I've got all these other weapons. I've broken my hand in amateur boxing before and I got through the fights. But that's not what he does. That's not what he's done. So if that was the case, and you got to understand who he's fighting as well. He's fighting a guy who's no joke. He's not fighting old mate from the pub. He's fighting a legit guy, a guy that's been a world champion, a guy that's fought for titles and lost titles and won titles and lost rematches and won rematches. This is who he's fighting. So, yeah, and who's physically another specimen. So you're going to be very hesitant if you're not completely good with your hands, if you hit something wrong with your hands. So, yeah, but having said that, there wasn't like this one-sided, I don't know, like I don't buy into the narrative that there was this one-sided domination and Usman did this load amount of damage to Khamzat in the fight. Like I didn't really see that either. You know what I mean? I didn't see Usman piecing him up, putting him on roller skates and Khamzat doing nothing. I didn't see that either. I saw that Usman, like there were moments in that fight where I was like, oh, Usman's looking good. But there were moments, do you know what I mean? It wasn't like a one-sided beatdown. And then Khamzat had his moments on the feet as well. Of the two, I would say Usman got the better of it, but not by much, man. Not by much. That's why I said I'm okay with it. I'm not a judge, nor am I saying that my thoughts on it are correct, but I can't give more than a draw to Usman. If you gave it a draw, I'd be okay, but I would lean towards a Khamzat win. If you give the draw to Usman, I'd be all right. If you gave a win to Usman, I'd say that was a robbery. Jordan Martinez says, Fab, I feel like the fight was a draw. Khamzat won 10-8 in round 1, but Usman won round 2 and 3, 10-9. He did more damage on the feet, and that's a deciding factor in the judging criteria. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to this already, and I think, yes, but I don't think that especially me, I was just Harry DeLuca's here. I was actually talking to Harry about this yesterday. Harry felt that Khamzat won round 2, lost round 3, and I felt the opposite. And it just speaks to the subjectivity of how close a fight is and the criteria you're using. And whilst you're saying to me, say for example, I'll just say round 3, how I saw it, not necessarily how that I'm right, but this is just how I saw it. I felt like I don't think that either one of those guys really did like sufficient significant damage on the feet to sway the fight either way. Like you could argue that Usman did more damage or that he landed heavier shots. I'm not against that argument, and I'm not against the draw, to be honest with you. I just didn't see it myself that way, but I can definitely see a draw. I can't see a win for Usman. But I don't think that Usman did this incredible amount of damage or even that much more that would negate any of the grappling that he did in the third. Do you know what I mean? And the way that it was done, the position wasn't like a half guard. That was a Turk ride and a pin. Hold on, I'm just going to put Sammy on here.
Hello, sir.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, mate. Can you hear me?
Now I can, my friend. Now I can. Thank you for joining us, Sam.
Too good.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, is that better?
Mate, that is fantastic. So now I'm just going to answer a few of the questions, Sammy, if you want to get stuff ready. Thank you for joining us, my friend.
Too easy. Let's do it.
Yeah. Guys that are coming on at 12 o'clock, which is the time that it should be. The thing, I just started the podcast a little bit early just to answer some of the questions of the people that had put questions up on the chat, which I really appreciate you guys doing, by the way. And I also just want to say thank you very much for everyone that listens and supports. Please like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you get any notifications from us. Harry DeLuca says, do you think Usman would beat Colby again in a rematch if Colby was able to beat Edwards in his next match? Could he beat him? Yes, of course he could beat him. Will he beat him? I don't know, because both these guys are in their late 30s now. I don't know which one of them has aged better. I haven't seen Colby fight for a while. I don't think he gets past Edwards. Should he get past Edwards, then I would have to start favoring Colby. But I think that's a big ask, especially at the age that he's getting to now. But who knows? If he beats Edwards, then fuck. Yes, he did something that that Usman couldn't do 2 out of the 3 times. Thrillhouse says, Chad Fab. I don't understand what Chad means. I hear people say it online. I don't understand what that is. What's your favorite exercise at the gym? I would swap healthcare for a good lat pull down. I don't really go to the gym per se, but one of the things that I think is really, really good, depending on your age, man, it really does depend on the age. But if you're going to do one exercise, I would do an overhead squat all the way down to the bottom. I think that's one of the best exercises you can do for your whole body. It helps with your hip flexibility as well, helps with your upper body strength, your core, everything. So overhead squat probably be, if I had to pick one. If I had to pick one outside of the Olympic lifts, okay, I'm just going to say that, outside of the Olympic lifts. Not everyone can do Olympic lifts, but overhead squat, most people can do it to some variation. Bob Marley says, what's up, boss? SG says, greetings, Fab. And I say greetings to all of you. SG says, Kamaru's wrestling was quite competent against Chimaev. Chimaev's wrestling was very aggressive. He forced that single leg and got it. Yeah, man. Yes, exactly what you said, my friend. SG says, do you think Kamaru should stay at middleweight? He was talking about fighting DDP in the post-fight interviews. I would like to see Kamaru stay at middleweight, but I don't want to see him fight DDP. I would like to see DDP fight for the title, and then Kamaru can fight whoever he wants at middleweight. But yeah, I'd like to see him there. So I'm going to skip a few. Lakshya says that it was a draw and that Sean beats Khamzat. He could beat Khamzat for sure. Joseph says, how much of the short notice fight from Kamaru, from Khamzat's point of view, took part in a lackluster performance against Kamaru? Does his game plan from Costa to Usman affect his performance? I don't think it was a lackluster performance, to be honest with you. I was actually quite impressed by Khamzat. I think people forget that Kamaru Usman is probably the best welterweight of all time. It's similar to Volkanovski being the best featherweight of all time fighting Islam. And Khamzat is not a champion. Khamzat is just another guy that's gone from welterweight to middleweight. And so to do that to the best welterweight of all time that's gone up, you're basically meeting him at middleweight, is a pretty fucking impressive performance, you know, especially that first round. So I don't think it was a lackluster performance. I don't buy into that narrative. I thought it was really, really good performance. I think Usman's a monster. Tekla says, choke was so close and position didn't change for so long. Usman had to face plant both of them. That was crazy enough for 10-8 round where nothing other than grappling happened. I agree with that, Tekla. I do agree with that. What I try and do at times is just kind of play devil's advocate, because I understand there's a subjectivity to the scoring. So Bob Marley says, you and Rob were a GOAT pod. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We all need to move on, though, mate. We all need to let it go, Bob Marley. But I appreciate you. Lakshya says, is absolutely no grappling when you put him side by side to Khamzat. Izzy's grappling is not at the level of Khamzat, no. But Khamzat's striking is not the level of Israel. And he can't, for whatever reason, and I would favor Khamzat in that fight, I'm just saying, but if he can't get Israel down and he can't finish him early, he's going to be in a shit ton of trouble. Honest questions from Hyena. Did you really think Volk was going to beat Islam on short notice, or was your pick biased, which I can understand? I don't know if you saw the breakdown, man, with what I said about that. I said to you before the fight, I said, I feel like Alex is going to catch him because I'm biased. That's what I want to say. That's what I want to feel. But even in the breakdown, and if you didn't hear it and you don't want to watch it back, I'm sure Sammy can attest to this. I did say, I think that Islam's going to use teeps and front kicks down the middle. And I think he's going to use the left high kick to keep Alex's right hand at home. That's what I said is going to happen in that fight. And that's fucking what happened in that fight. Definitely was going for Alex. I was definitely fucking biased. I'm not going to, that's 100%. But that's what I said was going to happen. I'm never going to say, I hope or I think Alex Volkanovski is going to lose. I'm not going to say that because I know the guy and he lives near me. One of my guys trains with him sometimes. You know what I mean? We grew up training with him. I used to see him at the comps, the wrestling comps since we were little. I've done work with him. I'm never, ever going to pick against him. That's just how I am as a person. I will never say anything bad about Robert Whittaker or Jacob Malkoon or Izzy Fitikefu or any of the guys that I've trained that are fighting at high level. I'll never pick against them. I will never bet against them. I will never cheer against them. I am biased. And I'm loyal to a fault even when I'm not working with a person anymore. That's just how I am. So that's that background with the Alexing. But that's what I said. But the reality is, do I think what I said was Islam was going to throw the front kicks down the middle and he's going to kick that. He's going to kick him with that left leg to keep that right hand at home. He's going to kick high. He's going to kick to the body. That's what I said. Joseph says, how much did a short notice from yep, we said that. Joseph says, Coach, let's premise that with Khamzat not hurting his hands. Yeah, this is that's what I'm saying as well. I don't know. Joseph, you need to let it go, man. I've answered your question, I think. So yeah, no, it was the premise that he hurt his hands. Yeah, like he doesn't have to even have broken it, man. You could have just, like I said, badly sprained your finger. Hyena says Khamzat couldn't take down Ikram. It's not true. He can't take down everybody, especially Ikram. Ikram is a 4-time world combat sambo champion. Like he's arguably, not even arguably, definitely more credentialed as a grappler than Khamzat. Like Ikram's a fucking monster, dude. I'm telling you, he's a proper monster. Atekla says, one shot really got a big reaction from Khamzat, but both never wobbled each other. Scoring damage is not too easy. Yeah, it was really a difficult thing to think. You can't say the damage that was done by Kamaru. I didn't see like huge amounts of damage. I thought Kamaru got the better of it, though. Don't get me wrong. In a lot of cases. Joseph says the only guys who can beat a monster with a broken hand is Rob. But in fairness, Rob's a striker. He's a out and out 100% striker. If he had to wrestle someone with a broken hand, it's a different story because the depth of Rob's striking is much, much, much higher than or deeper than Khamzat's. That isn't to say Khamzat couldn't catch him and knock him out, but you can't compare someone that's been doing karate and striking since he's 7 with someone that's picked it up reasonably late. So it's a very, very different thing. And in that, yeah, it's just a different animal that we're talking about. Sammy, do you want to talk to some of these stats that we have?
Yeah, for sure. So here if you share your screen, here I'm just
Yeah.
comparing their historical performance side by
Can
side.
you speak up a tiny bit, Sammy?
Yeah, so just here, I'm comparing their historical performance side by side, but I'm speaking to the fight so we can compare against their previous performance as well. So overall for the entire fight, Usman scored 36 of 66 significant strikes and Chimaev scored 38 of 70 significant strikes. So overall, just in terms of their striking, it's a very close fight, just in terms of those strikes and landed striking. Total strikes are much different with Chimaev.
So sorry. So when you're saying that, like I guess the narrative, at least according to the stats, and this is just according to the stats. Now, I'm not saying the stats are always true because that's why it's called lies, dirty lies, statistics. But at least according to the stats, the narrative that Kamaru landed the more and the most damaging strikes is not necessarily true. I'm not saying it's not true, but it's not necessarily true. Would that be fair?
It is. Oh, well, he landed 36. Chimaev landed 38. So in terms of significant strikes, very close. But at the same time, too, obviously, there's judges. It's subjective. What's one significant strike compared to another one can be very different as well, especially when you're just looking at the numbers overall. So, I wouldn't say that, just looking at the stats, Chimaev did outscore him in significant strikes, but only just.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be, I guess what I'm saying is it's not like Kamaru just landed like bombs after bombs. I think Jordan Martinez says the judging criteria deems damage more superior to ground control. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. But like I said, there was nothing in that fight that made me, and when you look at the stats, you can see it like, and even in that fight, like there was nothing in there that made me go, shit, Kamaru's just lighting this guy up on the feet. Khamzat took him down, held on for dear life, and did nothing with it. If that had been the case, I would be all for Kamaru. But they were both just landing on each other, and I didn't think that either one of them did anything really significant on the feet. That's how I saw it.
That's also just significant strikes. So total strikes were very different with the two, with Chimaev outstriking Usman by 107 to 58 in total strikes. So many of those were when Chimaev, for instance, was on his back and was striking, from the back or whatever else, but they just weren't considered significant. So he was still doing work while he was on the back as well. Still landing, but just not landing significantly.
Right. But on the feet, it was pretty much, I don't know.
It was pretty
close.
Even close. Yeah.
What else do you have on there, Sammy?
So Chimaev scored 4 of 12 takedowns for the entire fight. So obviously only a 33% success rate, 25%. No, 33% success rate, sorry. And so it seems small, but you only have to take someone down once and keep them there. And obviously this was demonstrated as he was credited with over 7 minutes of control time for the entire fight. Which
is huge in a 3-round fight. This is another thing. Like that basically means that for 1.5 rounds, the other guy could do nothing. That's half the fight. The other half of the fight was split 50-50 in their striking. So I can't make a case really, even especially now with the stats. I can't, because I hadn't seen the stats yet. We were trying to get him up until this point. I hadn't seen the stats of the fight until this point. I was just going off what I thought, but what I thought was pretty close to that. Like I felt that there wasn't much in their striking, and the big difference was in their grappling. And I don't buy into the fact that Kamaru did all this amazing damage on the feet. Like I don't really buy into that narrative. Didn't really see these crazy, crushing, damaging shots that would differentiate between the shots that Chimaev landed. Now, if people disagree with the stats, I can't do anything about that. They're not my stats. I'm giving my opinion of the fight, and then Sammy is pulling up the stats as done by the UFC people. I then speak to that. You know what I mean? Now, if you say to me, you don't agree with the stats, you don't care what the stats say, I can't say anything to you. All right, cool. Doesn't matter. There's nothing I can do about that. But that's what the stats say. You know what I mean? That's all. Anything else, Sammy?
Yeah, just for the entire fight, it's also important to they equally scored the same number of significant strikes to the head at 27. Usman outscored in strikes to the body, but he only landed 3 more than Chimaev. It was like 6-3. But Chimaev also scored 8 of 8 leg strikes. Chimaev was also credited with 16 of 17 ground strikes compared to Usman's 2.
Right. Yeah, so how do you feel about the fight, Sammy?
I actually was surprised that one judge scored it a draw. I just didn't see that as well. Just on a round by round basis, like in the first round, Chimaev scored 2 takedowns, only at an accuracy of 28%, and he also went for 1 submission. Obviously, establishing back control totally in that first round, he had 4.5 minutes of total control time. So basically, the entire round he had control, and that round was obviously clearly to Chimaev. In round 2, it was more competitive with Usman outscoring in the striking, landing 11 of 18, whereas Chimaev only scored 9 of 20. So in that second round, Usman did come back up, scoring a couple of more significant strikes. And obviously Chimaev did slow down a lot in that second round. But he still scored 1 takedown on 1 attempt and was attributed with 40 seconds of control time in that second round. So he had 2 less strikes in that second round, 2 significant strikes landed in that second round, but he had obviously the takedown and a lot more control time as well.
Which wasn't a lot of control time, but again, like I said, I didn't see a great difference in their striking in the second round. Maybe Kamaru, like you see, so Kamaru landed the 2 extra strikes in the second round.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. Like I that's why I could give that like I can do a draw. I can accept a draw. I wouldn't have picked it as a draw, but I can accept the draw. And then you negate the fact that he took him down and you say, yeah, but he did no damage with a takedown. All right, give him that second round. But I can't give him the third. You know what I mean? I can't do that. And even if I was going to be that liberal to give Kamaru both those rounds, I would have to score the first one 10-8 too. I can't just, otherwise you got to be, I don't know, Kamaru's mum or something to be a judge to do that, to give him the win. You know what I mean? You can give a draw maximum. I think that's being generous, but it depends. People see fights different. So I accept that, but I just can't give it I can't give Kamaru the win. No. I don't. No way in the world. Anything else, Sammy?
Just on saying that too, in that third round, Usman scored 22 of 45 significant strikes, a rate of 48%. Obviously, and then 22 of 45 at 48%. 20 of those were to the head. Chimaev, on the other hand, only scored 13 of 33 at a rate of 39%, a rate of 39%. But Chimaev also scored 1 of 4 takedowns and was attributed with 2 minutes of control time. So obviously he had a lot more control time than in that third round as well.
How much damage would it, according to that, like when you look at the stats, so how many strikes did Kamaru land in that third round?
22 significant strikes, 20 to the head, and 2 of those to the body.
And what about Khamzat?
Only 13. So
he definitely got outstruck in the third round. He definitely got outstruck in the third round.
Got outstruck in that third round. He's just also Chimaev had the takedown and the control time as well.
So there you go. Maybe a draw could be even more acceptable. You know what I mean? I saw the fight different, but a draw I'll accept. You know what I mean? I don't see it though as a robbery. Like Tekla just wrote here, getting robbed of a draw is not much of a heist in my opinion. No problem with Khamzat winning. Yeah, I think that as well. Like if the other guy won and you're clamoring for a draw, It's not really a thing. Like, it's not a robbery, you know. But yeah, it's interesting as well because I think, like I said, just how I see the fight, that third round, whilst it didn't get damaged, it's a very dominant position he was in. It wasn't just half guard. That was a pin. And when you get pinned like that, you're not putting up any defense. You're completely defenseless. The way Kamaru was on the ground was completely defenseless. Again, I'm not even saying he should have won that round. I'm just giving a very different, I'm just making sure people understand this is not the same as being in half guard where you get taken down. You're in half guard. You're looking for deep half. You're looking to get back to your feet. You're looking for different things. Kamaru had no knee shields. He had nothing. He was on his back flat, you know, completely vulnerable to whatever was going to happen next. And you need to understand that when judging is being scored, it's being scored live. If I was coaching, for example, which I'm not a judge, but I am a coach. If I was coaching in that fight, in that third round, whilst Kamaru outstruck him, there was never a point where, if I'm coaching Kamaru, I'm saying, there's never a point where I'm like, fuck, he's smashing this guy. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have felt that. But when he got taken down and held down like this, if I was coaching Kamaru, I would be fucking worried. I would be really worried. In a way, I feel as a coach, if I was Kamaru's coach and my guy was flat on his back for 2.5 minutes, no knee shields, no anything, just being pinned down, I'd be very worried that he's going to get finished. I would be. That's me. Again, doesn't make me right, doesn't make me think. I'm just saying to you, that's how I see fights. And people see fights different. And this is what is cool and has the subjectivity of the sport. Bodybuilding News says, how different is Sambo from wrestling as far as grappling? Charles Sonnen is always addressing it as a fake sport. Yeah, no, it's not a fake sport. But you know what it is? It's a sport that is really, and I was going to say, you can compare it to folk style. It's only done in this region of the world. But having said that, Sambo has it over folk style in that it's done. I prefer folk style over Sambo just as grappling style. I'm just saying, but Sambo has it over it in that the ex-Soviet states all practice it, you know. And I mean, there's all countries have it as the World Championships, but the Sambo in Australia would be judo and jiu-jitsu guys and wrestlers doing it. It's not really Sambo, but how different is it to wrestling? It has a lot. Imagine I'm going to say this the easiest way possible to not get into it. The grappling element of Sambo is like a cross between judo with leg locks and freestyle wrestling. That's the closest way I can say it. There's different types of Sambo. The Sambo there's combat Sambo, there's sports Sambo, beach Sambo, there's self-defense Sambo. There's a whole bunch of different types of Sambo. So the combat Sambo that you're talking about, that somebody else wrote there in the comments, SG, that's combat Sambo that you're talking about. But there's Sambo where it's just grappling Sambo. This is different again. So, yeah. And also just to say, Khamzat's not a Sambo guy. Khamzat's a freestyle wrestler. Is different again. A lot of the guys that are in the Russian Sambo scene, though, they're guys that probably start, and sorry, no disrespect to them, but they're guys that probably started in wrestling and judo and then went to Sambo because it's very hard to make those national teams in Russia. So you're probably going to find that's another reason why some of these Sambo guys are just amazing wrestlers, because they probably would have been ranked, I'm going to make this up, an arbitrary figure, but they might be in top 20 in Russia in wrestling, but they're not going to be, they know they're not going to make the national team. They know they're not going to make an Olympic team, and they might have an affinity for striking as well, or for some submissions or something, and they go to combat Sambo, or the same from judo. SG says, I believe Sambo was created by some judo fellows. Yes, it was. I'll actually tell you now. The pioneers of Sambo were Viktor Spiridonov and Vasily Oschepkov. Oschepkov spent several years living in Japan and training in judo under its founder, Kano Jigoro. Blah, 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 blah. But yes, and it has strong influences. This is me, I'm saying, from wrestling. You can see it clearly. Sammy, anything else on that fight?
Just comparing to their previous historical performance. So Chimaev on average before this fight scored about 24 strikes per round. And in this fight, he only scored about 13 strikes per round. And obviously that control time needs to be taken into account, as there was, the total fight, as we said before, there was 7 minutes of control. Chimaev is also on an average striking at around 60%, but this dropped against Usman to about 54%. And obviously, that second round where he kind of slowed down a bit and stopped throwing it as well can be accounted for that. Usman also normally scored around 22 strikes per round, but in this fight he only scored an average of 12 significant strikes per round. So both fighters are dropping in that significant strike area. Usman also previously on average had an accuracy of around 53%, and this was similarly reflected in this fight. So he had about 54% significant strike accuracy as well. And then Usman has a UFC takedown defense for his entire UFC career of around 97%, whereas in this fight it dropped to 66%. So he defended 8 of 12 takedown attempts from Chimaev.
So I think, what do you think? What do you make of those stats, Sam?
I'd still think that that control time is obviously a big factor. And while he was on his back, wearing him down, he had his hooks in, and he was still hitting him, just riding him and wearing on him in that whole first round. So obviously that 10-8 round makes sense. The second round was obviously a bit more, a bit closer, just in terms of the strikes. He did get one takedown towards the end of the round there as well. And then similarly with the third round, but I still think that Chimaev won. He had the takedowns and that as well. Just that third round, I suppose, is when you look at the numbers compared to how it actually went, Usman did outstrike him, but he still had that takedown, and that Chimaev still had that takedown and 2 minutes of control time as well. So it wasn't like right at the end or anything else as well. He still had a couple of minutes of control time.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree. I'm just going to finish up. I'm just going to go through a few quick questions here in the last 6 minutes. Guys, I'm just going to switch over to the Volkanovski stream in a second. So, join us on that stream at 12:30. But I'm just going to answer these ones real quick. Coach, if Kamaru will move to middleweight, who do you think he would fight next? Who would he fight next? I don't know who he'd fight next. I would like to see him. It will never happen. But I would like to see Kamaru fight Israel. That's who I'd like to see him fight. I know he's not going to fight him. He doesn't want to fight Israel. He has no interest in fighting Israel. But that's the fight. After seeing that fight, that's the fight that I was like, this is a fight I'd like to see. I'd like to see him fight Israel. SG says, because that would be interesting, dude. That'd help build the Khamzat fight more. Even more so, in my opinion. SG says, MMA Guru suggests Chimaev fight Israel. Yeah, I agree with Guru. I do agree with Guru on that. He should fight Israel. That would be the thing that would make sense, And Strickland should fight DDP. And then that leaves you Kamaru, Costa, Rob, and Cannonier. That's my opinion of that bunch. But having said all of that, I still want to see Aliskerov and Imavov in that mix. I would like to see them in that mix. I don't want to see them fight each other. I'd rather see them in that mix. And then we have Death Note says, Izzy has decent cage wrestling. Will it be enough for Khamzat though? No. I'm not saying Israel will just lose. No, like that. But as far as can Khamzat take him down, all things being equal, fuck yes. Sam says, personally scored a 10-8 to Khamzat, 10-9 Usman, 10-9 Khamzat. Think even if it scored the third round for Usman, I'd say Khamzat won in a pride scoring sense. Pride's difficult. Again, there's still subjectivity to the way that Pride scored fights. I myself am a huge Pride fan, but people get lost in nostalgia. There was still bad decisions in Pride because you're judging the fight as a whole, and you basically end up in the same position because people value different positions more than others or see danger in different positions more than others. There's nothing wrong with having a difference in opinion, but you have to understand that when you score something subjectively, there's going to be subjectivity to the answer. Kamaru versus Rob would be a great fight also. Honestly, man, to be honest with you, I don't see Kamaru having anything for Rob. No disrespect, just the way they match up. I think he's a wrestler that doesn't have the same crisp striking as Rob. He's not explosive on his double legs anymore. He shoots down for that snatch single. He's not going to catch and hold Rob down or finish Rob. Even if he was able to get him down, he's not going to push Rob into the cage and hold him there either. And he just does not have the fluidity that Rob has on the feet, nor the vocabulary of strikes. And Rob's a younger guy with better movement. That's what I think. Tekla says, Izzy struggle in first round and possible second round is enough to be super interesting. I haven't seen Izzy defend chokes like that. Unknown territory matchup. I agree, Tekla. I do agree with that. I think that's how I see that fight as well. Like the first 7 or 8 minutes in a fight is going to be all Khamzats. And can you withstand that storm? And do you have the skills to withstand that storm and then still be in there later in that fight? Because don't forget, you might withstand the storm, but you might also blow your load in that first 7 minutes as well. Defending that. It's not easy to defend a monster like that for 7 minutes. If you use all your strength to defend it, that's fine. Now you're fucked too. You know, on the feet, I don't think he has anything for Israel though. Guys, thank you so much. Please join us for the Volkanovski podcast, 12:30. So we're going to get it started right now, guys. Thank you very much. Take care, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye. Sammy